You are watching Eswatini TV, Sibuko Semaswati.
Good afternoon, viewer, and welcome to Home Study, a tele-education program at Eswatini TV. My name is Lirato Mabilisa, and I am not alone as always. I am with Nogwazi Lamini, and we will be your hosts. Good afternoon and welcome.
Good afternoon, Lirato. Good afternoon to our viewers, and it's good to be back again for another time for learning. Jam-packed, yes.
How are you feeling today?
I'm good. I'm very good. Thank you.
Please give us today's timetable.
All right, viewers. So today's timetable looks a little like this. We have English language now for grade 7. Then we have mathematics for Form 3 after that. Then literature in English for Form 3. Then we have Siswati for Form 5. And the last lesson for the day is biology for Form 5.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Nogwazi. Viewer at home, please note that we are live on YouTube and Facebook from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. So right now till 5 p.m. we are going to be live on YouTube.
Yes, that's true. And also just to remind you, if you have any questions, feel free to use our WhatsApp number that pops up on the screen from time to time. Right? So not if, but you have to be ready. We'll be right back. Actually, Lerato will be back with the English language teacher for grade 7. We'll be right back after this.
When we talk of screening, basically this is a preventative measure of finding out if there's any problem that may present as a result. So when you screen, you're trying to find out whether it exists or not, the problem. So in our case, the idea of screening is to ensure that everyone does not present with high temperature. So anyone who's presenting with higher temperature than usual is then picked up, and then from then on you'll then be tested to make sure that you have the virus or not. That is the main difference.
Eswatini sibambisene kulwa nekwanza kuligciwane le corona.
Hi, my name is Professor Shabang. I am an actor and a TV presenter. Coronavirus is a deadly virus, an invincible enemy killing people all over the world. We are not exempted, but together we can walk through and overcome as a nation. All we need to do is to follow the health precautions. Stay at home, stop the spread, and save lives.
COVID-19 is an infectious disease caused by a new coronavirus introduced to humans for the first time. It is spread from person to person, mainly through the droplets produced when an infected person speaks, coughs, or sneezes. These droplets can land in the mouths or noses of people who are nearby. These droplets are too heavy to travel far in the air. They only travel approximately 1 meter and quickly settle on surfaces. This is the reason person-to-person spread is happening mainly between close contacts. The exact time that the virus can survive on surfaces is not yet known. So it is wise to clean surfaces regularly, particularly in the vicinity of people infected with COVID-19. Hands touch many surfaces, which can be contaminated with the virus. You should therefore avoid touching your eyes, nose, or mouth, since contaminated hands can transfer the virus from the surface to yourself. When coughing or sneezing, cover your mouth and nose with the bend of your elbow or use a disposable tissue. If a tissue is used, discard it immediately into a closed bin. The most effective way to prevent the spread of the new coronavirus is to clean your hands frequently with an alcohol-based hand rub or soap and water. This will eliminate the virus if it is on your hands. Stay healthy and prevent the spread of COVID-19.
Welcome back, viewer, to the first lesson for today. We are learning English language with Mr. Kanyagwezwe Dlamini. Good afternoon and welcome to the show, sir.
Good afternoon, Lerato. How are you? It's been a while.
It has been a while. How are you feeling today?
I'm great.
So today we're learning about letter writing, am I correct?
Yes.
What would you like the viewer to have learned by the end of the lesson?
It's very important, Lerato, to learn about letter writing, as it is a skill that learners should acquire and develop. As you may remember that your fathers, our fathers, might have written letters before. We are still writing letters. They are still going to write letters. So it's a life skill that they need.
Okay, thank you very much. I know, viewer at home, that you're thinking that we live in a world of technology, communication, emails, texts, etc., etc. However, letters have a major importance in our daily lives, especially formal letters written to authorities of professional contact. So, put away your WhatsApp chat for now and let us learn the correct format and language of formal letters. Sir, you may carry on.
Thank you, Lerato. Good afternoon, my grade 7s at home and all the viewers. Welcome to our English language for today. The topic is letter writing and the subtopic is formal letter writing. By the end of the lesson, you should be able to define a letter. Also, you should be able to write a formal letter. My grade 7s at home, please prepare, and I'm sure you do have these materials right now with you, a pen, an exercise book, and a ruler, because we are going to use these materials. As we communicate in our daily lives, we may use verbal communication. We can also use non-verbal communication. For verbal communication, we sometimes use the face-to-face, the telephone, the cellular phone, and for non-verbal, we can use the WhatsApp, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, email, memo, and of course, letter. Because I want to highlight letter because we are going to be talking about letter writing today. Let us now try and define a letter. It is a handwritten, typed and printed message, especially one sent to the receiver via mail or post in an envelope. From this definition, we see that we can write a letter, handwritten. We can also type it and print it. It is sent to the receiver, in most cases through the post or mail, and in most cases in an envelope. And I want us now to proceed and look at just the types of letters. We have got the formal letter, which is sometimes known as the business letter. We also have the informal letter, which is also known as the friendly letter. Let us now define formal letter. It is a letter that is usually written for business or academic purposes. For example, an application letter, a letter of apology, a letter of complaint, a letter of request, just to mention a few. We are saying this is a formal letter. If you have a father who holds a certain position in an office, when you are writing a formal letter, you don't address him as your father, but you address the letter to the position that he holds in that office. Now, the informal letter. It is a letter written to relatives or friends, and also anyone with whom you have a non-professional relationship with. We are just trying to make a distinction between these two types of letters. Otherwise, our focus is mainly on formal letter writing. There are certain conventions that are followed when you are writing a formal letter. You use symbol and clear language. Don't try to sophisticate things here. This is formal letter writing. Avoid the use of contractions, e.g., wouldn't. You write words in full, as in would not. Be specific. Do not use slang or WhatsApp language or style of writing. Be polite. Do not override. Let us say you wanted to write the verb sow and you make a mistake and you write S-O-W. And then you discover that you have wrongly spelled the word. Then you want to override. This is wrong. We shouldn't do that. There is a layout that should be followed when writing a formal letter. What makes it distinct from the informal letter is that it has two addresses. The first address is the sender's address at the right top corner of the page. On the first line, not between lines. First line, you write the name of your school, or if you are at home, you may write your home address. Then the address of the school. Below the address of the school, you write the town. You skip a line and write the date in full. Now, because we said in the beginning there are two addresses, after the date, you skip a line, and remember, we were still on the right top corner. Now, after the date, you skip a line and move to the left margin. That is where you begin your second address. You start with the article the, followed by the receiver's position. For example, the head teacher. Then below that you write the name of the organization. Below that you write the organization's address, and below the organization's address you write the town. And then you skip a line and write the salutation. What is a salutation? It is just a greeting. In English, we always begin the salutation with the word dear. If you know the receiver, you just write dear sir if he is a male. You write dear madam if she is female. If you do not know the receiver, write dear sir stroke madam. My dear grade 7s, you should listen very careful because there is a lot of skipping of lines here. After the salutation, you skip a line again. Then you write the topic sentence. What is a topic sentence? It is a sentence that summarizes. It is a sentence that summarizes the whole purpose of writing a letter. When the receiver looks at the topic sentence, he or she should know the whole contents the letter is about. It is formed from the given situation or scenario. You begin with a noun or a verb in the progressive form or continuous form. My dear learners, you are done with your topic sentence. Then you skip another line to write the introduction. All begins from the left margin. The introduction is a paragraph that should be short and state the purpose of the letter. Use polite language. For instance, I would like to request for permission to go out of school. It's polite. I would like to. From there, you proceed to the development. The development is the body in simple terms. It should have relevant information behind the writing of the letter. Be precise and develop your points. Do not wind about the bush. This is formal letter. Be straight to the point. Develop your points and make your intentions known. Once you are done with the development of the letter, then you skip a line again to write the concluding sentence. What is this concluding sentence? It's a sentence that states what action you expect the recipient, the receiver, to take. For example, I hope you will refund me if, of course, you made a request for a refund. So you expect the receiver or recipient to refund you. You also expect a positive consideration of the request. Once you are done with that, you skip another line and then write the ending of the letter. Begin with yours faithfully. Below that, endorse your signature. And then once you have signed, you write your name and surname in full. I hope Lerato has got something to say right now.
Yes, sir. I think that the viewer at home, myself, and as well as you, deserve a little bit of a break, and then we'll be back so you can continue with the interesting lesson. Is that okay?
Thank you. It's okay.
Viewer at home, let's take a quick commercial break. Welcome back, viewer. We are still learning English language for grade 7s with Mr. Kanyagwezwe Dlamini, and the topic is formal letter writing. Mr. Kanyagwezwe, please continue where you left off before the break.
Thank you very much, Lerato. Welcome back, grade 7. We now want to look at all what we discussed in terms of the layout of a formal letter writing. We have got a scenario here which we are going to look together and then apply all the steps that we discussed before we took a short break. Now, let us look at this scenario. You bought 2 cartons of milk from your local supermarket. When you got home, you found that the milk was spoiled. Write a letter to the manager and complain. Suggest what you think could be done to compensate you. Here is a scenario. It is very important to unpack a question. You must find the tasks that are in the question. With this scenario or with this question, there are 2 tasks that you must execute. The first one, you are complaining. And then the second one, you have to suggest on how you could be compensated. Let us now look at the letter that we might write from the given scenario. Remember, we said there are 2 addresses. The first address is the receiver's address. There we go. Lutfocha Methodist Primary School. P.O. Mind the punctuations there. This is post office box, so we should punctuate. P.O. Box 4, Louve is the town. You skip a line, as you can see there. Write the date in full, 30 April 2020. You skip a line, move to the left margin. We said the second address, that is the receiver's address, begins with the article the. And the position is manager, the manager. Then The name of the organization, Mangele Supermarket. The address is P.O. Box 107. The town again is Luve. You skip a line, you write the salutation. We said we begin the salutation with dear, because here one might not know the manager of the local supermarket. That is why we are saying dear sir stroke madam. You skip a line. You remember we said last time we skip a lot of lines here. You skip a line and write the topic sentence from the given scenario. The question said, write a letter to the manager and complain. So this is a complaint about spoiled milk. You skip a line and then you write your introduction. I would like, you are polite even though you are complaining, but you are polite. Don't lose composure. You should be polite in formal letter. I would like to complain about milk that I bought in your shop. Then you move to the development. The manager should get the details now. I bought 2 cartons of milk on Monday, 27 April 2020. I checked the expiry date and it was best before 20 May. So the customer was shocked. When I was at home baking, I realized that the milk was spoiled. It had a sour taste and I could not use it anymore. I suggest that I get other cartons of milk, and if that is not possible, I request for a refund. Now, we have executed both tasks from the question. You complain and you also suggest how you can be compensated. You skip a line and then write your concluding sentence. I hope my complaint will be considered. You skip a line, you write the ending. Yours faithfully. You sign here. Because we don't skip a line, you endorse your signature. You sign Lunga Dlamini. So this is how you should write your formal letter. Now, here is another scenario that you should read and try to unpack, and then follow those conventions, follow the layout that we discussed. Now you bought a pair of shoes from a clothing shop. When you got home, you found that both shoes were for the left foot. Maybe you had no time to fit the shoes. You only realized when you were at home, wow, both shoes are for the left foot. Then the task now is, write a letter to the manager and request for an exchange. It is now not a complaint. It's a request. You made a mistake taking shoes for the same foot. Now you are asking for a exchange. So you must follow the layout. That is having your address, the writer's address or the sender's address, have the receiver's address, which is now the manager of the clothing shop. You know the clothing shop. So we are going to write your own, the name of the clothing shop where you bought the shoes, the address, and then the salutation. You skip a line, then you write the topic sentence. Now you write, request for an exchange. Now, we are saying the topic sentence, you may use a noun as request. You may also use a verb in the progressive form, like asking for an exchange. Then you move to the body of the letter. Be precise. Give details. What happened? It is stated there that you bought the shoes. You will state if you did not get time to fit the shoes. That is why maybe when you got home, you found that both shoes were for the left foot. Then be polite. Ask for an exchange. Once you have given all the details, you give even the date when you bought the shoes, the price for the shoes, the color of the shoes, and also the name of the shoes. Then once you have done that, you skip a line like we discussed before. You write the ending sentence, concluding sentence, whereby that is where you expect what the receiver, the action of the receiver. How is he going to take action towards your request? After that, you skip a line. You write the ending of the letter. Yours faithfully. Endorse your signature. May I emphasize here, in the ending, there is no skipping of a line. Start with yours faithfully. Below that, endorse or write your signature or sign. And then, after your signature or below your signature, write your name and surname in full. Now, this is what you are going to do during your spare time. Now, let us go back, my grade 7, to look at what we said from the beginning of the lesson. We said a letter is a message that is handwritten. It can be typed, printed, sent to the receiver by mail. In some years ago, where there were few post offices, we would also use the hand post. Put it in an envelope, give it to someone, and then send it to the receiver. We looked at the two types of letters. The formal letter, which is the one that is written for academic and business purposes, and the informal letter where we write to our relatives, our fathers, our brothers, our sisters. And we moved on to talk about the conventions, the rules that should be followed when you are writing a formal letter. Use polite language. Formal language, do not use WhatsApp language and slang. Do not overwrite. It should be neat. And then we looked at the layout. There is the writer's address, which is on the right top corner. Then the receiver's address at the left, starting with the article D, then the position. Below that, the name of the organization. Below that, the address of the organization. Below that, the town. And then you skip a line and write the salutation using dear, sir, if you know he is a male. Dear madam, if you know he is female. And if you don't know, use dear sir stroke madam. And then you skip a line, you write a topic sentence summarizing everything about the letter. You skip a line and write the introduction. You skip a line, write the development or the body of the letter. You skip a line, you are precise. You skip a line and then you write the concluding sentence. After that, you write the ending. This is what we have discussed so far today about formal letter writing. Hope you understood. Lerato?
Thank you very much, sir, for an interesting lesson. Indeed, it was really interesting, and I'm sure the viewer at home was participating and really enjoyed the lesson. Up next, viewer, is Nogwazi Dlamini, who is going to be presenting the next subject, which is JC Mathematics. We'll be right back.
Labanengi labangenwa ligciwane lecorona bavame kuba netimphawu letingasito letimatima njengebuhlungu bemphimbo, kuphathwa inhloko, kushisa nekubandza, kukhwehlela lokomile, kuphefumula kalukhuni kanye nekudzinwa. Kepha kulabanye kuba matima njengoba leli gciwane lihlasela emaphaphu. Ngesikhathi umtimba ulwa nalo leli gciwane, kwakheka emanti lagcwala emaphashini. Emaphaphu-ke angagcwala emanti akuphefumuleki. Lokhu-ke kubanga tingcinamba letinengi. Kuthi khweshisa kulabanye kuyasita ekunciphiseni kwanza kwesifo i-COVID-19. Hlala ekhaya ungahambi. Eswatini sibambisene kulwa nekwanza kweligciwane lecorona.
Nebekunene sibhekene nemkhuhlane lo matima kakhulu. Umkhuhlane we-COVID-19. Sisesikhatsini lapha wonke umuntu ufuneka atibuke yena ngokuthi ufuna kuphila yini noma ufuna kwentani. Uma ngabe ufuna kuphila kufuneka asukume aticabangele abone ukuthi yini lokufuneka yente. Sitamtshela ke thina ukuthi yini lokufuneka yente. Kufuneka ente lo lokushiwo nguhulumende la ku abambisene nelitiko letempilo lakamhlabuhlangene i-World Health Organization ukuthi bantu abahlale ekhaya phuma endlini nangabe kukhona sidzingo lesimatima lesingetulu kwemandla longeke usichubele embili, sidzingo lesifana nokuthi sowuphuthuma kudokotela, sidzingo sokuthi mhlambe sekuphelene kudla endlini ungakhona kuphuma, ngaphandle kwaloko hlala endlini. Kwesibili sithi eMaswati akasite asebente indzaba yokuthi njalo nawuvuka ugeze tandla uchubeke nawusasebenza ugeze tandla ngesipho nemanti lahambako. Lokhu basitshela ukuthi kutawusita lempilo yokuthi legciwane lingakhoni ukuthuthuka liye embili ngoba lihanjiswa ngumuntu alindize emoyeni, lihanjiswa ngumuntu. Lokunye ngilokuhlala bucamama kunalomunye umuntu. Ube bucala nje ungahlali edudane nalomunye ngoba bathi liyathathelwana ngaleyo ndlela. Kufana nalabo laba banathe ebhodleleni linye. Mhlambe ngabe ninatha leso sinatho senu lesitawugcina sinijabulisa kanti sinibhekise kunibulaleni, akume lokho bekunene ngoba lokho kutazivetela tingoti. Lokunye lesikushoko ngokuthi ungayi lapha kunesicumbi khona ngoba ngilapha eticunjini lapha abantu batawuthola kona lo mkhuhlane bathelele labanye. Uhulumende ke solo wasebenta kuvikela sive nyalo sowufake indzaba yokuthi kube netimfonyo lesetifakwa kona uphuma endlini nangabe sikhona isidingo sokuthi usuke ekhaya kakho uye noma nguphi faka leso simfonyo. Kepha ungaseboleki lomunye umuntu noma ngabe umthanza kanganani noma ngabe usihlobo lesinjani na ungaboleki umuntu lomunye sifonyo lo sifakile wena ngoba awati ukuthi unani kungenteka bese uyamthelela noma ngabe bowati kepha nje akufanele kwebolekwa netimfonyo.
Eswatini sibambisene kulwa nekwanza kweligciwane lecorona.
Wash hands now. Wash hands now.
Wash hands now. Wash hands now. Hand washing is one of the best ways to keep from getting sick and staying healthy all year long.
A very good afternoon to our viewers, and welcome back to those who have just joined us. Actually, welcome back to those who are with us. I am Nogwazi Dlamini, and this is Home Study. Right at this moment, we are doing Form 3 Mathematics, and joining me in the studio is Jengsile Makakula, who is going to be doing the mathematics lesson. Also joining me in the studio are our sign language interpreters, Tobile Fagutse and Linda Mamba. Jengsile, how are you doing this afternoon?
I'm good, Nogwazi. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. I understand that today we are doing solving simultaneous equations by graphing, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so what do you expect your learner to have learned by the end of this lesson?
By the end of this lesson, I expect the learner to be able to draw a straight line given 2 points on the line or its equation.
Okay.
And also to be able to use straight lines to solve simultaneous equations.
All right, okay. Since you spoke about drawing, I'm assuming that the Form 3s are going to need their pencils.
Yes, of course.
They are squared or graph books.
Graph paper,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. Form 3s, you heard that. Squared paper or graph books and your pencils. I hope that you are ready, and your erasers as well. Just to remind the Form 3s as well that we are live on YouTube and on Facebook. And if you have any questions, feel free to use our WhatsApp number. Jengsile, you may start your lesson.
Thank you, Nogwazi. Thank you. Let us just start with our learning objectives. Our lesson's objectives for today, as we have said, you should be able to draw a graph of a straight line when you are given the equation of that straight line. And also, you are expected to be able to solve simultaneous equations by graphing. Today's rationale, in real life, where do we come across these simultaneous equations? When we are trying to locate places, say for instance you want to locate a certain place, you will say it is at the intersection of such and such a road with such and such a road, then you can find that place. Also, our phones these days, they have GPS. So those GPS coordinates they give to you are intersection of coordinates. In geography, we have some lines called eastings and those that are called northings, where they intersect. That's how they get the GPS coordinates. And then to our lesson now. You are expected by now to know how to calculate the gradient of a straight line given 2 points on that line. You are also expected to know how to find the equation of a straight line using its gradient and the y-intercept. You are also expected to know how to draw graphs of straight lines given 3 points on that particular line. You are also expected to draw the graph of a straight line when you are given the equation of that particular line. Note, you can be given the equation of the straight line or 3 points on that line for you to draw it. The terms that we're going to use today are simultaneous equations and intersection. Simultaneous equation and intersection. Okay, maybe before we get into simultaneous equations, let us just recap what has been happening in the previous lessons. We are going to find the equation of a straight line given 2 points on that particular line. Now you will be given 2 points on the line and you are to find its equation. Our example is find the equation of a straight line passing through the points 3, -2 and -3, 4. Remember, for us to find the gradient we need to know which point is our first point and which point is our second point. Hence, we will take the point 3, negative 2 to be our point 1 and negative 3, 4 to be our point 2. Hence, we will find the gradient. But maybe before we get into finding the gradient, let us now remind ourselves of the equation of a straight line. The general formula is y is equal to mx plus c. Y is equal to mx plus c, where our m is the gradient of the line and the c is the y-intercept of the line. M in the equation is the gradient and c is the y-intercept. Now, for us to have our equation, we will start by finding the gradient. Just a reminder of our formula. The gradient is given by the vertical change divided by the horizontal change. That is change in y divided by the change in x. Hence, we write y2 minus y1 all divided by x2 minus x1. We substitute. From our points, we can note that we had the points negative 2, 3, and 4. And the point negative 3, 4 as our points. That is the point 1 and the point 2. Hence, we take the y coordinate of point 2, which is 4, and subtract. And we subtract the y coordinate of point, let me just refer to my previous slide for our points. We have the points 3, negative 2, and negative 3, 4. 2, negative 3, and negative 3, 4. And then now we subtract our y values, which are 4 minus negative 3. Excuse me, dear Lena. The one that is already typed there seems like it is not corresponding to what I want to do here. And then we have our x coordinates, which is 2, and then we subtract the negative 3 from the other point. What you have to note is you don't have to mix up. Like, you cannot take the coordinates, say you take this y coordinate and then you subtract this y coordinate and then you mix up and say maybe you take from the second coordinate. So now we will have our 4 subtracting the negative 2 divided by the 3 over 3 minus 3 minus 3, which will be minus 3 minus 3, which gives us a negative 6. Then we will have 6 over 6. Hence, our, excuse me, Yelena, I think today I don't know what is come over me. This one is the correct one. It's 4 minus minus 2 over 6, over 3, which is negative 3 minus 3. That is 6 over negative 6. Hence, our outcome would be a negative 1. Our gradient is negative. Hope you remember from our first lesson that a negative gradient means our line slopes downwards, moving from left to right. Then we move to find our y-intercept, which is our c. Remember, we said m is the gradient and then c is the y-intercept. In our equation, y is mx plus c. Now we will substitute. We have our value of m, which is negative 1. And then we will take one of the points, which is 3, negative 2. And using our point 3, negative 2, we will take the 3 for our x, and then we take the 2 for our y, and we substitute where there is y in our formula. We will say it's -2. Hence it's -2 is equal to our m, which is -1 multiplied by 3, plus c, because c is the unknown now. We do not know the value of c yet. And then we move. We have our -2 is equal to -1 multiplied by 3 gives us a -3 plus c. Now what we would do, we simply add the 3 both sides to get -2 plus 3 is equal to c. I just rearranged the formula and had the unknown on the left hand side. Hence it's c is equal to -2 plus 3, which gives us a positive 1. Hence our y-intercept is 1. Therefore our equation now, we substitute in the formula. Y is mx plus c, the gradient which is -1, and the intercept which is 1. We will have y is equal to minus 1x plus 1. In mathematics or in algebra, we usually not write the 1 here, which is the coefficient of the x. Hence we will have y is equal to minus x plus 1. We do not now have the 1 here. We can also rewrite this as y is equal to 1 minus x, just rearranging the right hand side to have the positive coming before the negative. And then now we can draw the graph of this straight line using the points that were given, which is 3, -2 and -3, 4. And also we can use our y-intercept. Remember we said our y-intercept is 1, which is c is equal to 1. And this point, it is where our graph cuts the y-axis, which is at the point where y is 1. On the y-axis, the value of x is 0. Hence we say we are going to use the point 0, 1. And we have our points plotted, which are -3, 4, 0, 1, and 3, -2. We get our straight line with the equation y is equal to x plus 1, y is equal to -x plus 1. As you can note, it has a negative gradient. Then on the same axis, we are going to draw another line with the equation y is x plus 3. We have our table here for the x and corresponding values of y. When x is -4, our corresponding value of y, by substituting in our equation, we get -1. And our y-intercept, remember, is the c, which is 3 here. It gives us the value of y when x is 0. That is where our y-intercept is. And then when x is 2, the corresponding value of y is 5. Hence, by plotting the 3 points, we can get our line now, which is y is equal to x plus 3. And as you can note, this one has a positive gradient. It is sloping upwards towards the right because it has the positive gradient. If you look clearly or look carefully, our graphs here, they intersect at some point. This is the point where these two graphs meet. And remember, when we are reading this coordinate, we start with the x coordinate, then the y coordinate, which is to say they intersect at the point negative 1, comma, positive 2. As these lines intersect at the point negative 1, comma, 2. So we can say our equations, which are negative y is negative x plus 1 and y is x plus 3, intersect at this point. Then now you can note that in this point, our point negative 1, 2, the negative 1 is an x coordinate and the positive 2 is the value of y that correspond to that value of x. Now we can say this is the solution of these two equations when we solve them simultaneously. Solving the two equations simultaneously mean we want to find a solution that fits both equations at the same time. And remember, when solving equations, you find the values of the unknown. In our case, we have y and x as our unknowns. Hence, you will find the values of y and x that fits both equations at the same time, which is the point of intersection. So we have y is negative x plus 1 and y is x plus 3 intersect at the point where x is negative 1 and y is positive 2. Therefore, the solution is x is negative 1 and y is 2. You can always check by substituting in one of the equations the two values of x and the value of y. In our case, we picked one equation, and substituting we get 2 is equal to negative 1 plus 3, which then qualifies that 2 is equal to 2, which means indeed these two equations meet at this point. May I give you Nokwazi to know if you are still following in our lesson?
Still following your lesson. But with that said, I think we should take a little bit of a break, a water break. Viewers, will be right back after this.
Ligciwane le-corona lincane kakhulu, angeke ulibone ngemehlo enyama. Kuze liphile lidinga kunamathela kubantu. Leli gciwane lingena melula emphumulweni, emlonyeni kanye nasemehlweni. Ligciwane le-corona alikhethi, lingesuka kithi thine bantfwana liye kubatali kanye nabothishela. Lisengesuka kubo litekithi. Indlela yekulimisa leli gciwane kulivimba kuthi lisuka kulomunye liye kulomunye. Uma umuntu athimula noma akhwehlela, leli gciwane lihamba kanye nalamathonsi laphuma kuloyo muntu. Uma uthinta lapho athimulele noma akhwehlelele khona, uyalibutha leli gciwane. Uma ke uthinta impumulo, umlomo noma emehlo, livele lingene kuwe. Ngakho ke umthetho wekucala, umthetho lomkhulu, geza tandla takho ngemanti lagijimako nangensipho njalo njalo. Thimula.
Welcome back to our viewers. From our water break, we're still with Jengsile Makakula and we're still doing Form 3 mathematics. If you have any questions, please feel free to use our WhatsApp number, which pops up on the screen. Jengsile, please continue with your lesson.
Thank you so much, Nokwazi. Let us move to our next example, which we can say it's example number 2. In this example now, since we know how to solve simultaneous equations, we're solving them by graphing. Remember, we are asked solve the following simultaneous equations by graphing. Why we emphasize that we're using graphing? It is because there are other methods we can use to solve simultaneous equations. But for today, we are focusing on the graphing method. We are solving the two equations, which are y is equal to 2x minus 1 and y is equal to 3 minus 2x by graphing. Solving by graphing simply means that you must graph the two equations for you to find their solutions simultaneously. Simplified version is we are looking for the point where these two graphs intersect, and that is our solution. But remember, we do not write it as a coordinate because, say for instance, it's 1, 2 or whatever. We do not write it like this, but we write x is equal to 1 and y is equal to 2, simply because we are solving. And by solving, we're saying that we want to find a solution which fits these two equations at the same time. Hence, we want to know the value of y and the value of x at that particular point. We have our graphs now where we have the line y is equal to 2x minus 1 and y is equal to 3 minus 2x. We are looking at the point where these two lines intersect, and from our diagram we can say that point is 1, 1. But then for our solution, the point of intersection can only guide us, which is the point of intersection is 1, 1. But to present your solution now, the solution of the two simultaneous equations is x is equal to 1 and y is equal to 1. From the point, we just pick the values of x and the value of y independently. Hence, we have x is 1 and y is 1. Okay, for almost all the examples I've checked, but it's not like you have to check every time. I just make this check so that you can see if it really solves the equations, because we want to see if the values x is equal to 1 and y is equal to 1 fit into our equations. So we took the equation y is equal to 2x minus 1, substituting the x and the y values, we get 1 is equal to 2 times 1, where the 1 is from x, minus 1, which is 1 is equal to 2 minus 1, that is 1 is equal to 1. Hence, our left hand side is equal to our right hand side. That is to say, the solution is true for this equation. You can use the other equation to check at the point 1, 1, and you will see the right hand side is equal to the left hand. The left and the right hand sides are equal. We will move to our third example. The third example, we are given two equations now, and we are to solve them simultaneously by graphing. Note, now we are given just the equations. The equations of our lines are y is 2x plus 3 and y is 2x minus 1. Then you draw these two graphs, our graph for y is 2x plus 3 and the one for y is 2x minus 1. If you look at them carefully, you will note that the distance between them at any given point is the same, which means they are parallel. And we know that parallel lines, they never meet, hence they do not intersect. Yet we said the solution for simultaneous equations is the point of intersection. So since these two lines do not intersect, then there is no solution for these two graphs simultaneously. So these two equations cannot be solved simultaneously. And this is true for parallel lines, since we know parallel lines do not meet. As we said, intersect is one of our terms. Intersection means where these two lines meet. Hence, for parallel lines, we cannot find any point where they meet, since they will never meet. Hence, there is no solution simultaneously. Looking from the graphs of these two lines, you can note something. Our equation, the general one, is y is equal to mx plus c. Looking at these two equations, looking closely, you will see that the value of m for both equations is the same. It's 2. Hence now, you can see, we said in our previous lesson, parallel lines have the same gradient. By mere looking at the equations, you would tell that these two are parallel. Hence, they have no solution simultaneously. Now, let us quickly go through a question taken from Mathematics Paper 2 from the year 2013. Mathematics Paper 2 for JC year 2013. This question was question number 9, and it reads, the graph below shows 3 straight lines. The equation for 2 of these lines are y is 6 minus x and y is x minus 2. We are given equations of only 2 of the lines, and yet we have the diagram showing 3 lines. We given y is equal to 6 minus x and y is equal to x minus 2. The last line is just labeled L. It has no given equation. Looking at the next part of the question, find the equation of the third line L. Since we are given the first line and the second line, their equation, the question says find the equation of the line L. We can take a look back to our diagram. Looking at the line L, there is something we can see clearly. Y is equal to mx plus c, where c is the y-intercept. We say the y-intercept is where our graph cuts the y-axis. So we look closely to our graph and we find that it cuts the y-axis at the point 0, 3, which gives us that our c is equal to 3. From our graph, we can get that c is equal to 3. Since now we found that c is equal to 3, and our equation is y is equal to mx plus c. Instead of calculating the gradient now by using 2 points, we will just use the equation y is equal to mx plus c, the value of c, and 1 point on the line to find our gradient. So now the point will give us the values of x and y, which is to say our 5 is y and our 1 is x. Now we substitute. Y is mx plus c. Y is 5. M, we are looking for m. And then our x from the point we given that it's 1 plus c, which is our y-intercept, which is 3. Then now opening the brackets will give us 5 is equal to m plus 1. Remember, multiplication by 1 will not change the m. And then we have 5 is equal to m plus 3, which gives us m is equal to 5 minus 3, which gives us m is equal to 2. Therefore, the equation of our line now is y is equal to mx plus c, where our m is 2 and our c is 3, which gives us y is 2x plus 3. The next question was, use the graph to solve the simultaneous equations y is equal to 6 minus x and y is equal to x minus 2. We are using our graphs to solve this equation and this one simultaneously, simply by looking at the point where these two intersect, and that is the point 4, 2. The point 4, 2, which will give us the solution is x is equal to 4 and y is equal to 2. Now you are given a point, negative 7, w lies on the line y is equal to 6 minus x. Find the value of w. So you will simply substitute negative 7, because in the point negative 7, w, we note that the negative 7 is x and the w is the value of y. Substituting the value of x, you will get y is equal to 6 minus 7, which is a plus 7. Hence our w is given by 6 plus 7, which is w is 13. The question ends here for the year 2013. The question 9 was A, B, C. Hope you will find it in your past exam paper booklet. Now, in conclusion, in today's lesson, we want to believe that you have learned how to calculate the gradient of a straight line given 2 points on that particular line. Also, you learned how to find the equation of a straight line given 2 points on that particular line. You also learned how to find the equation of the straight line given the gradient and a point on the line. And you also were able to find the equation of a straight line given its graph. And of course, you learned how to solve simultaneous equations by graphing. That is where these two lines meet. The point of intersection becomes your solution, where you write x is equal to and y is equal to. And that marks the end of our lesson today. Nwazi, hope you were still following our lesson.
Oh yes, I was still following your lesson. Thank you very much, Jengsile, for an interesting mathematics lesson. And we hope to see you again for another interesting lesson.
We definitely will meet.
All right. Okay, Form 3s, just something to think about. Simultaneous equations can be used to solve everyday problems, especially those that are much more difficult to think through without writing anything down, such as distance, time, and rate. So that's something to think about. All right, Form 3s. With that said, up next is my colleague Lerato Mabilisa and the Form 3 literature in English teacher. So grab a snack from 3s and come back right after this.
COVID-19, yes, the coronavirus. It is now our daily talk. It is now our everyday breaking news. I think it's high time we all come together and make sure we bring an end to this. Cause we can't sit down while it's still taking over. Let's all follow all the precautions given by the health department so that we can protect ourselves and also protect others.
I just wash my hands before I touch. I just close my mouth before I cough. And I just close my mouth before I sneeze. And I don't go to parties, that's a risk, yeah. I see. I wash my hands before I touch. I see. I close my mouth before I cough. I see. I close my mouth before I sneeze. I see. I don't go to parties, that's a risk. I see. People going through a lot. I see. Coronavirus is a threat. I see. I don't go to parties, that's a risk. I see. I close my mouth before I cough. In case you're wondering, just wash your hands in case you handle things, and then keep an eye if you sneeze or cough, gotta keep it covered. I mean, who am I? Just a person living, wanna see you living, cause I value life. Eswatini, raise up, we gon' fight and conquer, cause we really got this.
I see. I wash my hands before I touch. I see. I close my mouth before I cough. I see. I close my mouth before I sneeze. I see. I don't go to parties, that's a risk.
Believe that some of the people you know can never be trusted at all. You gotta be cautious. Wash your hands more often, can trust everything that we touch. And when you sneeze, you gotta make sure you cover your mouth, but not with your hands, cause you do not know who you gonna touch or what you have touched before all of that. Avoid meeting up with too many people for your own good and everyone else. You gotta make sure you keep it all clean. Watch how you maneuver, look after yourself. A hand sanitizer won't kill you. Make sure that you use running water. Just think of our brothers and sisters in the country and the ones that are outside the borders. Yeah.
I see. I wash my hands before I touch. I see. I close my mouth before I cough. I see. I close my mouth before I sneeze. I see. I don't go to parties, that's a risk. Let's all come together and all say, not today, coronavirus.
COVID-19 Corona. COVID-19 Corona. COVID-19 Corona. COVID-19 Corona. COVID-19 Corona. COVID-19 Corona. Let's dance together. Join hands, fight against Corona. Let's dance together. Join hands, fight against Corona. COVID-19 Corona. COVID-19 Corona.
Masad, let's fight COVID-19 by making a meter away from each other.
COVID-19 Corona. Wash your hands with soap and running water frequently to prevent COVID-19.
Avoid touching eyes, nose, mouth, shaking hands to prevent COVID-19.
Are you coughing? Are you sneezing or having headache? Make sure that you quickly go to the hospital. COVID-19 Corona. COVID-19 Corona.
You're still tuned in to Eswatini TV, and welcome back to the third subject for today. We are learning English and literature with Mrs. Samgelisiwe Nhleng-Edva. Good afternoon and welcome, ma'am.
Afternoon, my dear. How are you?
I'm alright. You're looking really good today.
Thank you so much, Lirato.
So what is today's topic, and what would you like the learner to have learned by the end of the lesson?
Okay, thank you so much, Lirato. Today we are looking at handling the passage-based question. At the end of today's lesson, we expect that a learner should be able to identify a passage-based question because we have different types of questions, so they should be able to tell which one is a passage-based question out of the 3 questions that we have. Also, we expect that at the end of the lesson, learners should be able to read and analyze a passage-based question and also respond effectively to passage-based questions.
Okay, interesting indeed, ma'am. Without wasting time, please take us through.
All right, thank you so much, Lirato. As already mentioned, we are going to be looking at the passage-based question. It is important, my dear learners, that we remember that in literature we have 3 types of questions. The first one being the passage-based question. Then we also have a traditional essay. And finally, we have the empathetic task. But today we are going to focus on the passage-based question. We're going to look at how best can we handle this type of a question. We are going to first begin by defining a passage-based question. What is a passage-based question? It is a type of question that demands that learners demonstrate their knowledge of a text through close reference to details and use of quotations from the text. It is very important that you understand, my dear learners at home, that for this type of question, it is not just about how much you know the story, but it is about the text that has been given to you. You are expected to use the passage that you have been given by the examiner at that given point. It could be a poem, it could be an excerpt from a short story or a novel, it could be an excerpt from a drama text, any of the 3 types of text that we do or study in literature. But today we are going to look at an example from a prose text, which is in our syllabus. Okay, so it's important that we know, I don't know how much I can emphasize this one. Our focus should be on the details that have been given to us in that particular text. Okay. This type of question also requires that learners should demonstrate an understanding of characters, relationships, situations, and themes. So our learners are not just going to be reading the passage for enjoyment, but we expect that they're going to interact with the characters that they're going to encounter in the given text. We expect they're going to look at the relationships that the characters have so that they're able to respond to the set task. The emphasis here is focus on the given text. Okay. Also, when we define a passage-based question, we say it's a type of question that requires that learners' response to use of language should be tested. They should look at how language has been used in the text, because that is how they get to respond to the set questions. You are not going to be able to give us your feelings on any text if you do not interact with the language. You do not look at the choice of words that the writer has used in that given text. What determines how well you can respond to a question is your interaction with the choice of words or the language that has been used in that given text. Also, we expect that when you deal with a passage-based question, you should be able to determine the intentions of the writer. It is not about you as a reader, but it is more about the writer. What is it that he precisely wants you to get at the end of the lesson? So that is why we are saying it's also important that we understand his intentions and techniques. Because if a passage is meant to make us laugh, we expect that learners should laugh at the end of reading that or after reading that particular passage. You cannot read a humorous passage and then you end up telling us that you feel so sad after reading this particular passage that you have read. Also, it's a type of question, my dear learners, that demands a personal response. Personal response could be implied or it could be stated explicitly. Remember when we discussed our assessment objectives, we spoke about personal response. So I believe that in today's lesson, we're going to get time to get deep into looking at how learners can develop personal responses. Remember, we said the personal response is the icing on the cake. So we expect that every learner should make an attempt at impressing. What is a cake without an icing? The beauty of the cake is seen through the icing. If the icing doesn't look appealing, there's no way I want to dig into the cake. But if I see the icing that is so attractive, I want to attempt eating that cake. Whether I'm on some diet or not, I forget about that when I look at the icing. Hence, we are saying every learner should make an attempt at developing this personal response. Tell us, how do you feel about whatever text you've interacted with? What are your opinions on that given text? Okay. I want us to move a step further now and look at how we can identify a passage-based question. Let us say it's an exam time. You're in the exam room, exam nerves, you are so stressed and all. You have so many questions in that literature exam question paper. How then do I tell which of these 3 per section is a passage-based question? Yes, I've studied The Gods Are Not to Blame. I can see the title, but amongst these 3, which one am I expected to choose? And we need to remember, my dear learners, the passage-based question is the only compulsory question in our literature exam. So it is very important that we pay attention as we discuss this type of question, because whether you like it or not, you are going to be expected to deal with such a type of question. Okay. How do I identify it then? Normally, it is marked with an asterisk, something which we sometimes call a star, but it's not really a star. It's an asterisk, because I believe a star has how many sides? But an asterisk is not really shaped like a star, okay? That example there, which we have, shows us what an asterisk looks like. So normally, you're going to see the asterisk bolded on the side, and you'll know that this is a passage-based question that I'm going to read now. And it is normally the question that you are going to find as question 1 in that particular section. It's the passage-based question first, then we have the traditional essay, then finally it's going to be the empathy task. However, I want us to pay attention to the fact that most of the time, especially with drama and prose, you are going to find that you have the passage first, and then you have the questions come after the passage. Meaning you're going to see the passage first, and you might be tempted at some time to think, at some point, to actually think there's no question. Yet there are keywords that are written at the top that after reading the passage, read the following passage and then respond to the questions that follow. So the questions normally come after the said passage. So it is a type of question, my dear learners, that is very easy and exciting to handle. We are going to see in a short while when we get to interact with some of our questions. Now let us look at some sample questions that I have here. We have question 1. Read the passage below and answer the questions that follow. So I have those dotted lines there where in a real life situation or an exam situation you would have your passage, okay? Over here, this is where you'd have your passage, after which you have your questions here. Okay, so that's question 1. Then we look at the next question. Racial tension is inevitable in mixed races schools. With close reference to life at Ascension Covenant Catholic School, explore the truthfulness of the statement. Then we have question number 3. You are Tsidiso after lying to KB about your dad not being able to pick you up. Write your thoughts. There is something that I have omitted here in one of those questions on purpose, because I want to assess whether my learners at home are able to identify the passage-based question which we have just spoken about. I have left out one key marker or one key identification tag, if I may say, of a passage-based question amongst those questions that we have, which I expect is going to be a task for the learners to do while we continue with our lesson. Some other time I'm going to return and I'll give a prize to the learner who's going to respond on our page. Lirato said we are live on the different social media platforms. So the first learner to respond and tell us which of the 3 questions that we saw is a passage-based question is going to get a prize. Okay. Let me show you guys the questions again so that I give you a fair chance to see the questions before we move on to our next activity. We have those 3 questions there. I am sure you have been able to go through the questions and you will be able to identify the type of question that we have just discussed. Which of those is a passage-based question? Remember, I said I omitted one key identification tag so that it becomes a bit difficult, I assume, for us to be able to identify which one of those 3 is a passage-based question. But please do give it an attempt. Try it out. Okay. Now, I want us to move on to another very important part now of handling our passage-based questions. I want us to try and look at how do we respond to passage-based questions. How do we respond to passage-based questions? Yes, we've looked at what it is. We have looked at how we can identify it. Now, I want us to look at how best can we go about responding to passage-based questions. Okay. The first tip that I normally give is read the question first. I believe it's important that we start by reading the question before we read the passage, so that when we go to the passage, we already have an idea of what is expected of us. The best way for me to enjoy reading a passage is when I know what the examiner demands from me. So it's important that you read the question and identify the keywords in the question. Okay. After identifying the keywords in the question, you go to read the passage. I normally say read the passage at least twice so that you get a feel of what is happening in the story. You get to interact with the characters. Remember earlier on we said there's a type of question that requires that you interact with the characters in the text. So if you read the text more than once, I believe you are better positioned to respond to the said task. Another tip that I would give with regards to responding to a passage-based question is underlining any words or phrases that you find interesting or relevant to the set task. Remember, we said you start by reading the question. So if the question probably has to do with a personality of a particular character, so each time you come across any detail in the passage that you feel reveals that particular character's personality, you underline those details. I normally say there's no way you can interact with the text and leave it clean. If you are reading, the text should be dirty as you underline. It is yours. Whether it's in the exam or whether you are reading at home, make sure you should be making those few notes on the side. Underline so that when you go back again to the passage, you remember this is what I found interesting as I was reading that particular passage. After you have finished reading the passage, I normally advise that you go back to read the question again. Read the question for the second time or third time or fourth time. Read it again so that you think about what is being asked. After doing that, we now expect that you are ready to handle the task. You can now begin writing your essay. And if you have done justice to the first stages of reading the text, I believe that when you begin writing, it gets very easy because you already have the points that you are going to use when you write your essay. It is important, dear learners, to remember that when we write our essays, we should remember, since it's a passage-based question, that we should use quotations when we write our examples. They should always be in inverted commas. Let us quote examples from the text because we need those to back up our response. We need those as a support. Also, we expect that you use the whole passage. The whole passage. Not just a portion of the portion of the text, but use the whole passage. Learners are sometimes tempted to find a certain portion of the text too exciting and focus only on that area and ignore the whole text. If, for instance, you have a poem given to you, it has 4 stanzas, you find some learner is only going to focus on 1 stanza and forget the other 3 stanzas. So you are encouraged, my dear learners, to ensure that you interact with the whole text when you respond to the passage-based question. And remember, focus only on the given passage. Only the given passage. Remember, we are saying this is the passage-based question. It is an extract from a drama text, from a novel, from a short story, yes, but here you have been given only just a small portion of that particular text. So focus on that. For the passage-based question, we do not appreciate learners who are going to bring or try to come and showcase how knowledgeable they are on a text by telling us about, or rather giving us details that are not in the passage that has been given to them. We are saying focus only on the given passage. Okay. Please also remember, my dear learners, for paper 1, we normally have our passage-based questions structured as A and B, meaning the question normally has 2 parts. Now, the temptation here is for learners to think that the questions do not carry the equal number of marks, yet the marks are clearly distributed. 10 marks for part A and 10 marks for part B. So it is important, therefore, that you pay attention equally to both parts. Don't find yourself spending the whole 45 minutes responding to part A, and then for part B, you only spend 5 minutes. But apportion your time properly so that you give enough attention to both parts of the question, because they carry the equal number of marks. It's very sad to read part A and you are so excited and you find yourself giving an 8 out of 10. Then you read part B. Now you have to give a learner 2 out of 10 because the learner has not given themselves enough time to deal with the second part of the question. With me now is a list of some don'ts, some things that you need to remember not to do, or some elements that you need to try to avoid doing. Narration. We are a tribe or a group of people that love telling stories. However, when we deal with the passage-based questions, it is important that we remember this is not a chance for us to showcase our storytelling skills, but this is a chance for us to interact with the set question. Respond to the question, don't narrate the story. You are not going to be awarded marks for telling us a story that we already know. Number 2, do not paraphrase. Other learners are tempted to paraphrase, tell us the passage in their own words instead of responding to the question. Please always remember, the passage is not meant for you to rephrase or try to give it to us in your own words, but the passage is meant for you to utilize as you respond to the said question. Another issue that we normally have is the copy and paste. Other learners merely copy the passage as is, word for word, and they paste it on the other side or on their answer booklet. We do not encourage that. We say read the passage and use it to respond to the said question. Don't merely copy and paste it to your answer booklet. Another issue that we have is an issue whereby learners ignore a given passage. Please do not ignore the given passage. Whatever the cost, do not ignore the passage. You're probably reading a passage from the Pearl, and you think when you see Coyotito getting stung by the scorpion, you feel so scared and you decide to ignore that, and you decide you want to talk about another part in the text where you think there's something more interesting. You are not going to score marks. You probably are reading a short story from our collection, Africa Kills Her Son, and you think the story Death to Death, at the moment when Hleziphi is beaten by Ramaphosa to her death, is so violent, you cannot react to that. If that's the passage that has been given to you, utilize that passage. Don't ignore the passage and decide to use another one that you find interesting to you. Also, avoid using one and the same example for different points. If, for instance, our learner is dealing with a question whereby if you've been given a poem and you've been asked how the poem makes you feel, you find the learner is giving us a million feelings and we are so happy, but when you look at the examples now, you find the examples are still the same. If it's an example from line 1, in paragraph 1 it's going to be the same example, paragraph 2 same example throughout the essay. We do not award marks for feelings that are in isolation, but the feelings should be supported by various or different examples from the text. Also, if it's a question on feelings, which is one of the popular questions that we have, avoid giving one and the same feeling throughout the essay. And what some learners tend to do here is they tend to use synonyms. Instead of giving us a different feeling, you feel pity in the first paragraph, you feel sorry in the next paragraph, you sympathize, instead of finding another feeling that you can give to us. So avoid using one and the same feelings. If you do that, you are not going to score marks. Now, I want us to look at the structure of a paragraph. How is our paragraph supposed to be structured when we respond to a passage-based question? The first important thing is there should be a point. In other words, there should be an argument that you are presenting. There should be a claim that you are making. There should be a claim that you are making. So if the question says discuss character traits, so give us the character trait as your point. In other words, we are saying you need to echo the question as you give us your point. Step number 2, after giving us your point, is to then give us an example. We said this is a passage-based question, so go to the passage, select an example, quote it, pick it, lift it as it is from the passage, and paste it into your answer script. Respond to the said question by giving us examples from the text. Here, there is no reason why we are not going to be able to present arguments properly, because we've been given the material that we are supposed to use. There's no way we can say, hey, I had forgotten what I was supposed to use when I discuss feelings here, or when I discuss character traits here. I just, got blank. Passage-based question is a question where we are supposed to score maximum marks, because we have the information given to us on a silver platter. Ours is just to lift it and use it for our benefit. After giving us an example, it is important that you move a step further now, my dear learner, to explain that given example. You cannot just give an example and then think you have won the battle. You need to explain. And through the explanation, that is where you get to develop the argument. Remember, we said the point begins the argument. So through the explanation now, you get to put flesh in your argument. Convince me. If I read a particular passage, for instance, I might feel excited, but somebody else might read the very same passage that I read and feel sad. So prove to me why you are actually saying, as you read this particular passage, you feel that particular way. Explain. Prove beyond reasonable doubt. After reading the passage, I should decide, even if I thought this was not funny, but when I listen to your explanation, I should change my mind. I should find myself laughing when I read your essay, if you've been able to explain to me how much funny that given example is, or how amusing that example you have given to me is. And after giving us the explanation, it's very important that you link us to the question. Don't just explain the keywords in your example and that's the end of it, but show us how the explanation you've given to us links with the question that you are responding to. Finally, we want to see the personal response, the icing on the cake that I spoke about. Okay. I want us to quickly get into practicing what we have discussed. Lirato, I don't know if you can take a breather and then come back and enjoy this passage and get to interact with it before our learners lose track.
Okay, ma'am, we can take a breather. And I think you're in trouble because there's a lot of people who answered here. So they better get their prize. If you're at home, can we take a little bit of a breather? And we'll be right back with Mrs. Klingep.
When we talk of screening, basically, this is a preventative measure of finding out if there's any problem that may present as a result. So when you screen, you're trying to find out whether it exists or not, the problem. So in our case, the idea of screening is to ensure that everyone does not present with high temperature. So anyone who's presenting with higher temperature than usual is then picked up, and then from then on you'll then be tested to make sure that you have the virus or not. That is the main difference.
Eswatini sibambisene kulwa nekwanza kweligciwane le-corona.
Wash your hands. Scrub them while you're singing the song. Wash. Rub your hands and fingers and the places in between. Using soap and water makes your hands so clean. Wash your hands. Reach up, you're almost done. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, now dry.
Wash your hands for 20 seconds, just like Elmo.
Welcome back, viewer, to an interesting lesson indeed. Ma'am, the viewer at home, or rather your learner at home, has a question, and it says, I am requesting for repetition on definition of passage-based question. And then for your question that you asked, some students say it's question 1, some students specifically say it's question 1B, and some students say it's question 1A. So I'm not sure which answer it is. Can you kindly tell them the correct answer?
Okay, the correct answer is question 1A and B. You need to remember, dear learner at home, that all our essay questions are worth 20 marks. So the moment you say A, it means you're saying the question is now worth 10 marks. So it should be both questions. You don't respond to A and ignore B, but you respond to both questions. Okay. Now, there's another learner who said they want us to recap on what a passage-based question is. We said a passage-based question is a type of question that requires that you refer to the text to respond to the said question. We said it's a type of question whereby it is compulsory for you to literally quote from the text when you are handling that particular question. Now, before we run out of time, I would love us to look at a paragraph that responds to a sample question of a passage-based question. It's a question that requires feelings. So I want us to actually look at how the learner has responded to this type of question that requires feelings. We have our point. Remember, we discussed how we can write our essay. So I would really love us to look and have a feel of how a paragraph that is properly structured looks like. So we have our feeling here. The learner says they feel pity after reading a passage from the mending season. It's an excerpt from chapter 1. So the learner says, I pity the narrator as I read the passage because of the conditions that she lives under. That is the point. Then the learner now moves on to give us an example. She says, for instance, she says, the tree gave us a scrap of privacy. We have that example there. And I hope you notice, my dear learner, the example is in inverted quotes to actually say, these are not my words, but I've lifted this from the passage that you have given to me, examiner. After that, we see the learner explaining this whole part here we see the learner explaining to us what it is that makes her feel so sorry for the narrator when she reads. I love how the learner explains here how bare the narrator feels through the use of the word scrap there. The tree gave us a scrap of privacy. So it makes them feel bare or known by everyone. So I feel sorry for the narrator because no one loves his affairs to be known by the entire universe. And I love that exaggeration there, giving us the impression that it's not just this township that knows their issues, but it's the entire universe. To clearly show us why the learner here feels pity for the narrator. We also get to appreciate how this writer here has been able to also move us as readers so that we will also feel pity in the same way that she feels pity, as she goes a step further to paint a clear picture of how much she values privacy. So if you do not have enough privacy, then it means you are living an uncomfortable life. Then lastly, the learner here has been able to give my favorite, the personal response in the last line. She has given us her point. She has given us an example, an explanation. Then finally she says, the narrator's desperation is lamentable. No one deserves to lead such an uncomfortable life. Lerato, do we still have more time to discuss another example, or we can wrap up?
No, I think we can wrap up because you have 1 minute left.
All right. I hope learners are no longer going to struggle with the passage-based question. They will be able to identify one when they see it in an exam question. They will be able to read and analyze questions when they are in an exam situation, and they will be able to respond to those types of questions. Despair not, my dear learner. We still have time in next lessons. We are going to discuss the passage-based questions in detail. Thank you so much. We have come to the end of our lesson.
Okay, thank you very much, ma'am. What I understood from the lesson is that one must read the passage-based question a couple of times to remind yourself of the content.
Yes,
am I correct?
You are correct, my
yes,
dear.
and then consider exactly what the question is asking for.
True.
Okay, thank you very much for being with us today. Hoping to see you next time.
All right, thank you so much, Lerato.
Viewer at home, up next is Nogwazi Dlamini, who is going to be presenting the next Form 5 subjects, Siswati and Biology.
Nine bekunene live laseswatini liyatimbandzakanya nemkhankaso welitiko letempilo namhlabuhlangene i-World Health Organization wekugcina tandla tihlantekile ngaso sonke isikhatsi kuvikela kulomkhuhlane lokhona we-coronavirus. Tiningi ke tindlela longatisebentisa kutivikela kuleli gciwane le-coronavirus. Yinye yato lencomekako kutsi uyisebentise ngaso sonke isikhatsi kugeza tandla ngemanti lahlobile lahambako uphindze usebentise insipho ngaso sonke isikhatsi. Utsatse isikhatsi lesinganga 20 seconds kuya ku 40 seconds solo utigezisisa letandla, noma ke usebentise isanitizer nangabe emanti angekho dutane nawe. Litiko letempilo likanye namhlabuhlangene liluleka kakhulu sive kutsi silandzele nati tinyatselo kuze kutsi tandla tihlale tigcinekile tihlobile ngaso sonke isikhatsi. Kumele umandise tandla takho ngemanti lahambako, ushikishe insipho etandleni takho. Yenda siciniseko sekuthi ushikisha totimbili tandla ngalokwanele. Sandla sekudla sishikishe ngetulu kwesandla sesencele. naso sesenqele sishikishe isandla sesekudla. Uthi sebenzise totimbili tandla kuze kuthi ugezeke kahle ngalokuphelele. Ushikishe insipho emkhathini weminwe yakho netandla totimbili. Uchubeke ushikishe ngemuva kweminwe yakho kuto totimbili tandla. Chubeka ushikishe tithupha totimbili shengathi uyatishwila. Usebenzise iminwe yakho lesonzelene. Shikisha sandla emkhathini. Kubomake noma ke labo labanetingalo letinze kufanele bashikishe letingalo kuze kuthi emagciwane langabe ahleti khona nawo akhone kugezeka kahle ngalokuphelele. Utiyakade tandla ngemanti lahambako, tesule tome tandla ngethishu noma ke ngendvangu lehlobile. Uphindze usebenzise ithishu noma indvangu kuvala impompi. Yenda siqiniseko sekulahla ithishu enzaweni lapho ingeke kube lula khona ukuthi umuntu ayithinze. Nawe ungahlala unetandla letihlobile njalo njalo. Nginxusa onke eMaswati ukuthi asukumele etulu. Sihlanganyele kulomkhankaso wekugcina tandla tihlantekile kuze kuthi sitawuvikela lesifo singasingeni kalula sisive. Siphindze sikhutsate bekunene ukuthi nebantwana labancane basitakale basitwe ngilabadzala ukuthi bagezisise tandla tabo tihlale tihlobile. Lokho kube ngumsebenzi wabo labadzala ukuhlala bahlobise abantwana babagezisise tandla kuze kuthi kungabi lula ukuthi bantwana bangenwe ngulomkhuhlane we-coronavirus. Kuhloba kwami impilo yami. Siyabonga.
Asikwemukele mbukeli khona ehlelweni lethu i-home study. Ligama lami ngingunokwazi wakadlamini. Kanti kulesikhathi samanje sitawufunza siswati selibanga lelishumi form 5. Kanti vele sowukhona thishela welibanga lelishumi la form 5 Portia Kunene. Portia unjani namuhla?
Yebo nokwazi angubingelele Entsambama.
Unjani Portia?
Ngiyaphila kakhulu sisi.
Ngiyaphila nami Portia. Ngabe namuhla sitawufunza ngani esifundweni sesiswati?
Namuhla isifundo sethu sesiswati sitabe sibuka umbiko weliphephandzaba.
Yebo.
Yes.
Okay, ngiyathemba ukuthi bafunzi belibanga lelishumi la form 5 seba ready ukuthi bangafunza. Portia ungaqala isifundo sakho.
Siyabonga nokwazi. Sitawuqala ngekubuka bumcoka besifundo sethu lesithi ngumbiko weliphephandzaba. Ngitasibekisa lobumcoka njengekuthi kuye kube nemsebenzi emakhaya bese kuyadingeka ukuthi asekuhlatshwe. Nakuhlatshwa ekhaya angeke kuvele kusuke kubuya inkomo ingakalolwa lemikwa. Ngikholwa ukuthi ekugcineni kwakukonke bafunzi khona inkomo lebekufuthi bayohlaba lekugcineni kwathi bona ukuthi yingiphi lenkomo. Kanjalo ke nasibuka kubhala kwethu ketindzaba sibuka nembiko weliphephandzaba. Kusho ukuthi umfunzi uyatilolonga sithi kumbiko weliphephandzaba umfunzi uyatilolonga likhono lakhe lekubhala umbiko. Athi nakatilolonga futhi asebenzise nelilwimi lolungulo asabhala umbiko weliphephandzaba. Ekugcineni kwesifundo sethu sigatsile ukuthi umfunzi kube khona lekakutholako. Angeke phela umfunzi ufunze uhlale ungasadi ukuthi bengihletilene ngibukela. Kukhona lekumele ukhona kukwadi. Kwekuqala nasibuka umbiko weliphephandzaba sigatsile ukuthi ekupheleni kwesifundo bafunzi bakhone kuchaza ukuthi uyini umbiko weliphephandzaba. Naseka uchazile ukuthi uyini umbiko weliphephandzaba umfunzi akakhone futhi kulandzela timpawu tekubhala umbiko weliphephandzaba. Asakwendile lokho umfunzi akakhone futhi kusebenzisa lulwimi lolufanele lwekubhala umbiko weliphephandzaba. ekugcineni kwako konke mfundzi kumele ukuthi ukhone kubhala wona lo mbiko weliphephandzaba. Asinake ke mfundzi ukuthi umbiko weliphephandzaba ungiletinye tindzaba lesitibhalako nje asati ukuthi uthathelwa empilweni yawo onke malanga ngekuthi umbiko weliphephandzaba siwukhanza emaphepheni ngoba siyawafundza emaphepha onke malanga. So sithi yini umbiko weliphephandzaba? Umbiko weliphephandzaba singathi luhlobo lwembhalo, luhlobo thite lwembhalo. Lo hlobo lolthite lwembhalo lubhalelwa emaphephandzaba. Lo hlobo lolthite lwembhalo lubhalelwa emaphephandzaba. Awumani ke uvuke ekseni ungumbhali uyinthatheli uvuke uthi hayi namhlanje ngidawubhala kanjena namhlanje ngidawubhala kanjena. Kumele ukuthi indzaba loyibhalako umbiko wakho ugcile emaqinisweni. Nasithi info igcilile emaqinisweni sisho ukuthi hamba uyiphenye sive ukuthi bathini ngako lento lokhuluma ngayo, uve bathini, uyile yini weva abantu ukuthi bathini. Ngetulu kwaloko asati ukuthi umbiko weliphephandzaba ubika ngetindzaba letendeka emangweni. Uyati nje ukuthi ekhayikini nakusemphofu nangabe kukhona lokwendekile liphephandzaba litawubika. Ngetulu kwaloko even lonke sitawuthola ukuthi kwendekane ngekuthi thine sibuka liphephandzaba. Ngetulu kwako konke emhlabeni wonke jikelele siyakhona kwadi ukuthi kwendekane ngekuthi sibuke umbiko weliphephandzaba. Akusiyo yodwa ke umhlobo lwembiko lolu lesinalo, tikhona letinye tinhlobo tembiko. Luhlobo lwekucala lwembiko lolunye lesinalo nalo lesithi umbiko wemaphoyisa. Lolu hlobo lwembiko lubhalelwa emaphoyisa. Sibuye sibe nehlobo lwesibili lembiko. Lolu luhlobo lesithi umbiko loya kuthishela nhloko. Utawubhalwa lo mbiko lona asithi nje bekunemidlalo esikolweni nase niyahamba nibantu abesikolo kwaba khona sigameko lesendekako. Umfundzi utawufika kuncenye sekubhekeke ukuthi achaze kuthishela nhloko. Utawubhala lapho umbiko loya kuthishela nhloko. Lelinye luhlobo lwembiko lesiubhalako futhi noma lesifundzako ngumbiko loya kuthishela nje. Thishela kungaba ukuthi ngithishela weSwati asengithi nje isikhathi sami eklasini ka form 4A sengithishelele nje ngaphandle sengithi ngiyabuya sengikhanza sekukhona lokwendekile la ngekhathi. Kutawubhekeka ukuthi munye webafundzi angibhalele angitshele ukuthi kwendekene lapho sibhala umbiko loya kuthishela nje. Sisaqhubeka ke mfundzi kunale kumele sikuconze ngetihlobo ngembiko. Umbiko ungena ngephasi kwanalihlobo lwendzaba lesithi simondzaba. Losho ukuthi uyangena laticathulweni talesimo lonikwe sona. Angeke uthi mine angizange sengize ngikubone lokho, mine azange sengize ngibe ngithatheli ngitayibhala njani umbiko. Asiconze ukuthi ufakwe esimeni lesithide ticabange nalina litulu kunelijazi lelikhulu lemuntu ngeke uthi alingineli lelijazi uyalithatha ulifake emtimbeni uthi nje sengidawu ngena khona la khathi. Kanjalo ke nasibhala lolhlobo lendzaba lesithi simondzaba. Simondzaba sibheke kwekuthi lobhalako sona kwekucala asati sizathu sekubhala lesimondzaba. Kwesibili akati kwekuthi bobani labantu labatawulalela noma labatawufunza lesimondzaba. Ngetulu kwaloko asati kwekuthi simondzaba sakhe simanjani. Khumbula kwekuthi simondzaba lesi sitawuba khona legcineni nasihlinza lenkomo lesithi luhlolo lethu ekupheleni kweminyaka. Ngulapho khona sitawuhlala phasi khona sibafunzi belibanga le11 sihlale phasi sibhale ihlobo luhlolo. Sitawukhanza umbiko weliphephandzaba kuliphepha lethu lekuqala sicephu sesibili lapho khona utawunikwa lesimo bese uyabhekeka ukuthi ubhale. Kulo hlobo lolwendzaba kufuneka ukuthi umfundzi athi nakayibeke lapha lendzaba ingakabukwa nekubukwa ibonakale lendlela limiswe ngayo kuthi lona umbiko weliphephandzaba. Lokunye asati kwekuthi umbiko weliphephandzaba singawukhanza kusivisiso 2 liphepha lesibili lapho khona utawubhekeka futhi ukuthi umfundzi abhale. Kungako ke sithi mfundzi kunetingoni lekumele sitilandzele uma sibhala umbiko weliphephandzaba. Asesitibuke ke letingoni tetfu. Ingoni yeqala lesiyibukako kumbiko weliphephandzaba sibuka sihloko. Sibhalwa njani sihloko sembiko weliphephandzaba? Sibuye futhi sibuke libito lalobikako. Sibuke kwekuthi ngabe lendzaba yethu iyendeke kuphi leso sigameko lesikhuluma ngaso sendeke kuphi. Siphindze futhi sithi hayi phela indzaba njengaso tonke tindzaba lena lengumbiko weliphephandzaba ima njengato tonke tindzaba kumele ibe nani nesingeniso. Kumele indzaba yethu ibe nani nemtimba. Kumele indzaba yethu ibe nani nesiphetho. Sesinako lokho fune sati kwekuthi kunelihlobo lolitsite lwelulwimi lesitalisebenzisa sisabhala umbiko weliphephandzaba. Ngetulu kwaloko sendeni sibuke timpawu tekubhala umbiko weliphephandzaba. Asichubeke ke mfundzi. Sesinyala sifike khona nyalo. Sesithi sesifuna kuyibhala lendzaba yethu. Ngicalaphi? Ngitasimisa njani sona lesihloko sami? Vele uthini lo medem utha ngenteni? Asisibuke ke sihloko sethu sisithi kusihlatiya sitawuhlatiya ngayinye ingoni. Sithi te ingoni yeqala sihloko. Asikhumbule mfundzi ukuthi nasihamba siyothenga liphephandzaba asibuyi sihlalele phasi sifunze onke lamakhasi sibuke ukuthi vele bebafuna kuthini. Sihamba sikhethe tindzaba letitsite ngoba tiyasikhanga. Titasikhanga letindzaba letitsite ngoba kwendekene kuthi ngithethwe sihloko lesibhaliwe. Kungako ke sihloko sethu sitawuthi kwekuqala asiconze kulokukhulunywa ngako. Sithi asiqonze info nayiconzile ayigege. Info nayiconzile ishona la kumele kwekuthi iye khona. Kungako ke nangabe nje umbiko wakhe uthi bhalwa ngekugcekeza kwesitolo angeke wena bese usicocela letinye tindzaba usitshele isihloko sakho ukuthi sesichaza ngaletinye tindzaba. Sigadze kwekuthi ukuchaza lekukhulunywa ngako. Kwesibili sihloko sethu asikhange. Info ke nayikhangako nawubuka nje uhamba lapha edolobheni nawuthi uyabuka lapha etitolo utawubona labo bodoli bamile lapha bagcokisiwe bendele ukuthi batokhanga. Lokukhanga ke kwenta ukuthi uhawukele ufune lento kuyitfola nawe. Kanjalo ke nesihloko sethu sembiko weliphepha ndzaba. Ngetulu kwaloko sithi sihloko sethu asigqame. Sithi sihloko sethu asigqame. Into ke nayigcamile itimela yodwa lapha ibonakale ngisho noma ngabe ngibani lebeka ngakayibone utayibona. Sitasicamisa njani ke sihloko sethu? Sitasicamisa sihloko sethu ngekuthi ungasibhala ngetinhlavu letincane. Uthi na usibhale ngetinhlavu letincane bese uyasidvebela. Indlela yeqala leyo. Kwesibili utasibhala sihloko sethu ngabofeleba. Na usibhaleke ngabofeleba cikelela mfundzi kwekuthi sona awusidvebeli kwekucala lele sibhalwe ngabofeleba. Kwesibili tinhlavu tethu atilingani. Nangabe nje sifuna kubhala ngale tinhlavu letinkulu akubonakala ukuthi tiyalingana. Singafiki sesibhala kanjena sithi sibhala ini isihloko sethu. Ngiyethemba siselandzelana sisevana mfundzi. Sitawuqhubeka ke sithi sihloko sethu asimani sisusele noma nguphi. Sisasithatha sihloko sethu sisusisele embutweni. Asesibuke isibonelo sethu. Umbuto utawuthi ke kugcekeziwe kulelinye libhange kuthiwa kugcekeziwe kulelinye libhange lelikhulu edolobheni. Digebengu tathatha incumbi yemali uyinthathele bhala umbiko. Asesibuke letinhlobo letimbili tekubhala sihloko. Kwecala sitasibhala sihloko sethu sithi asikhanga. Sitasibhala ke sithi tinsolabo yatikhale temuka netigidzi temali bese siyasivebela sihloko sethu. Le ndlela yesibili sithide sidayibhala lesihloko sethu singagazi kwekuthi sibe nani sibe sidvetshelwe sona losho ukuthi angikwendi leso kulesihloko lesi angikwendi sona ngisishiya nje sinjena. Lokhu ke kwendani kwenda ukuthi lesihloko sethu sigcame. Ngase sisibhalile ke sihloko sethu lokulandzelako ligama lalobikako. Ligama ke lalobikako ngilo leli sitshela ukuthi sihlo indzaba yethu ibhalwe ngubani. Litasitshela futhi sihloko sitawungena ngaphasi kwesihloko sethu. Njengoba sihloko sethu sithide tinswela boya tikhale temuka netigitsi temali. So yabhala ke ngephasi mfundzi uthi ngu uyasho ukuthi ngu bese uyalisho ligama lakhe Zanele Dube. Uyasitshela ukuthi ubhalwe ngubani umbiko wakho. Sichubeke ke sithide njengato tonke tindzaba sibhekile ukuthi kube naleti ngoni letingeke tize tsale nasibhala umbiko weliphephandzaba. Kunengoni yecala lesitawukhuluma ngayo sithi singeniso. Singeniso sethu asati ukuthi singeniso yinzima yeqala yembiko lo ubhalako. Singeniso sethu sitawushwamba kanye. Info ke nayishwamba kanye isuke ifinyeta isilethela konke lolofuna ukukhuluma ngako lapha kulombiko wakho. Lekufuna sikunake ukuthi singeniso sethu asimhehe phela losifundzako angathi afundzele isihloko afunze ukuthi kubika abani asinakafika ezingenisweni athi hayi ngiyayiyekela mina leliphepha hayi angisalikhanuke mina leliphepha ngoba wena awukendi kona. Sithi ke singeniso sakho ngiso lesitawunika lofundzako liphimbo lekumele afunze ngalo indzaba. Singeniso sakho sitawenda lofunza indzaba yakho abone ukuthi akachubeke nayo yini noma cha. Esingenisweni ke lesingachaza nasisazama kusibhala ngalendlela lengubuke ngayo mina ukuthi ke singachaza esingenisweni ukuthi kwendekeni. Sithi kwendeke kuphi losho ukuthi sosinike indzawo. Usitshele sikhathi. Usitshele futhi nelusuku. Nasithi ke singeniso sethu utawusina usibhala lesingeniso uqale ngekusitshela ukuthi sigameko sethu sendeke kuphi. Utawucala ngekusitshela ukuthi sigameko sethu sendeke kuphi. Nangabe indzaba yendeke kaManzini utawucala ngalokubhala lokho. Sithi ke singeniso sethu sinika umdlandla kulofundzako ukuthi achubeke nendzaba yethu. Simnike inkhaphu ukuthi ngifunze yini lendzaba noma ngiyekele. Aseke sibuke sibonelo sesingeniso sethu. Sithi ke singeniso sethu siba nayo lendzaba. Nasi singeniso sethu indzaba yethu yendeke kaManzini. Khumbula umbuto wethu ukuthi bowuthi kucekeziwe ebhange lelikhulu kulamanye lemabhange angithi sishito njalo. Sathi ke edolobheni lelikhulu nali ke idolobha lelikhulu ngelinye idolobha lelikhulu even la kaNgwane nguManzini. Sabuya sathi kucekezwe kuphi ebhange nalihlobo libhange lami anginenzaba ukuthi awukake walibona anti siyalibhala le nangizane lebhange lami. Sesiyabona ukuthi tendeni dikhale temuka nesimba semali. Sitasibuka ke simba nasikhuluma ngesimba sikhuluma ngemali lenyenti. Ngetikhathi temadina ngalesibili siyathola ukuthi lenteke kuphi siyathola ukuthi tibalekile nale mali tihambe nale mali bekunini bekungilesibili ngetikhathi tani temadina cha nasi singeniso sethu sisendani ke nasesicedzile singeniso sethu. Siyachubeka sibuka umtimba. Umtimba wethu ngidawufananisa nekuthi uhledi ubuye emasimini sowuthiniwe sowubuya ke uyenaba. Ngifuna kubekisa nje ngokwenaba kwekuthi kwenaba kwenta njani uyahlala uyakhululeka lapho sekude lokusabako usabhala. Ngulapho lesitagwe ngiloko ke lesitakwenda emtimbeni wethu. Lobikako unaba indzaba yakhe anake sihloko. Sowusendile phela sihloko angeke bese uyaphondla esihlokweni sakho. Chubeka unake kwekuthi sihloko sakho beside yendani. Lokunye lesikugadzile emtimbeni wethu kwekuthi uchaze konke lokwendekile solo ungaphondli esihlokweni. Njengoba siside lapha la kungena etigebeni kathatha imali funa usitshela ungashiyi sinembuto futhi lo funza indzaba yakho ungamshiya timang atibuta ukuthi hawu kambe sengitawuva ngani ukuthi vele kwendekeni mende ukuthi konke lokubhalile akuve uyawubhala ke emabito ebantfu netindzawo letitsindzekako uyasho nje ukuthi ngetikhathi tensimbi esingaki insimbi yesibili kwendeke lokho endzaweni lekunguthi uyababuka ke nemabito ebantfu kwekuthi kwendeke kutsindzeke bani nabani lekufuna sikucaphele kwekuthi lapho khona kulahleke umphefumulo lapho khona kunekuhlubeteka lapho khona kunebucala asingavami ke lokubhala emagama kunetizatfu ke letenda lokho lokunye lekufuna sikunake emtimbeni wethu ngithi temine sitawuthi sabhala emtimbeni wethu sibuke bantfu emabito ebantfu latsindzekako labatsindzekako naka mfundzi lana kwekuthi batawukhuluma labanemagunya ekukhuluma ngubani lona ligunya lekukhuluma lokunalesigameko leso ngidakubekisela namngendeka sigameko lesitsite esikolweni mina ngingithishela nje ngingithishela weSwati angeke bese ngihamba ngiyawutincancatha tindzaba emaphepheni ngokuthi vele kwenteka lokho nalokho angisuye mahlele sangweni wesikolo ukhona umphathi isikolo ngaphandle nangabe lendzaba ingithinza ngco itangithinza ngco na kwente njani nangabe yenteke eklasini lami nangabe yenteke ngente njani ngihambe nebafundzi asithi ke bengihambe nabo gcapho liyavutha lapha kasomhlolo sekuthi nasibuya khona lekubogcapho liyavutha sekukhona lokwendekako vele ke lapho sengingakhuluma nginawo lamagunya ngingilothishela lophethe leligcapho liyavutha but itindzaba leti ngangifaki angingatingeni angingatiphendvuli emaphepheni ngoba kungenteka ubhale lokungasiko kunomtimba wethu sibheke ubhekekile kwekuthi uwahlele emaphuzu akho asesibuke ke nanga ami ukuthi ngiwahlele njani ngithi temine kulesami isihloko lesithi ke bafundi ngithite kugcekeziwe ebhange lelikhulu ngidawuthi mina inzima yami icala cha kule nzima le yecala ngaphela indzaba yamfuna ihleleke ukuze itobumbana ishelele athi lo ifundzako abone ukuthi sicalela sabheka la sashona le utawuchaza lokwendekile kulena yami kwesibili angibabone bakhuluma phela labatsindzekile lebe bakhona kulesigameko ngilapho utawusho khona ukuthi lotibonele ngemehlo lebe bakhona nakwenteka lesigameko longakafuni kushiwo utasitshela lapho ngalokuthi bakhulume bathini asibeve bakhuluma phela ngoba sithite lombhalo lona ugcina emaqinisweni but asicophelele sicaphele kwekuthi labamvu laba abasitshela itinvo letinze letawenda lofundzako angasayilandzela indzaba ukuthi sokukhuluma lona sozo wakhuluma kathe sifuna kuva ukuthi ekugcineni kwendeke nawusana nekulendzaba kulesigameko lositshela sona asesibuke ke nasi sibonelo sethu sitawusebenzisa inzima yecala lapho khona sitawuchaza lokwendekile khumbula ukuthi ezingenisweni sethu sishito ukuthi kwejiwe imali ebhange lelithide suyachaza ke nyalo suyachubeka uyachaza ke usayibhala lendzaba yakho kuthite nase ishaya yagabanca insimbi yesibili asithite emva kwemadina emajala amathathu angene ebhange lelikhulu isurvey bank lelapha na utongena edolobheni ngamanzini njengabe bonke bani labatowenda tinvo letihambelana nelibhange hawu bachamkile bangena awungeke ke bhange ungena ugijima shothi bangene kahle bebahamba nje batihambela endeka ukuthi ngendeka bebafake netandla emakhikhini phela labantu laba lokwendekile kuthite ngekuphatima kweliso kwevakala kuchuma kwesibhamu lokulandzelwe livi lelithi wonke umuntu lo lapho ngekhathi akalale phansi hawu kwenteke njalo ngabe bese kwenta njani dawuchubeka ke enzimeni lelandzelako so encenye soyachaza futhi uchubeke kancane noma lo tsindzekako so takusho ukuthi lo tibonele ngemehlo uthi de lamajala amathathu bekembethe kanje engcele omunye sobachaza indlela lebambethe ngayo noma ke lokhulumele libhange uthide wathi lokho sikufaka kuphi emtimbeni wethu ngiyethemba sisalandzelana futhi sisevana mfundzi sichubeka mfundzi sithi kunenzima yethu futhi stawuthi sesiyibhalile ke inangizane umtimba wethu Sitawubese ke indzaba yethu sifuna kuyibona yephetheka. Lena ke sithi ke yinzima yekugcina yembiko wakho. Sewendani? Sewuyasonga. Info nawo uyisonga soyayikhunga. Na ukhonga lifunza lifindvo ke awukagathi ukuthi likhumuke kusale kunemibuto le uthi ngabe ngikhumbula inkonzo lekuthi ngikinatelwe ngeligodze lenchanchaptana. Shothi lendvo soyibamba ithi mfi awukagathi ukuthi chacheke. Angikagathi ukuthi kube nembuto futhi ukuthi ngitawuthi ngabe kwasala kwendekani. Sitawuphetha njani? Angethembisa lobhala umbiko lobhala loyo mbiko angecwayisa lebekhulunywa naye noma ngasho simo setindvo asithi bekunengode utasitshela ukuthi labantu bakusiphi isimo bayelulanga noma ingodi makhada nangabe bekunebucala utasitshela ukuthi emaphoyisa athi 10 asesibuke isibonelo sethu sibuka ukuthi kunasi isimo sethu sasebhange lapho khona kucekezwe libhange uthini umfundzi uthi mahlale sangweni wemaphoyisa make phindile vila kade uyivumile lendzaba washo nekuthi emaphoyisa asayiphenya lendzaba sibajwayele ke emaphoyisa nakasho njalo athi indzaba asayendani asayiphenya ungilalele kahle futhi nabafunza tindzaba ekhaleni lesiswati bayisho kahle ukuthi emaphoyisa asayiphenya lendzaba akunendzaba ke mfundzi ukuthi lo mahlale eswangweni wena ligama lakho yalati ungabe sesonwa inhloko uthi kodwa lo mahlale eswangweni nangamathi lephepheni ngidawuthini cha ungamnika nje ligama lakhe noma ke ungalibhali kodwa ke uyathi ukuthi phela lo salibhalile so ubhale kangcono wena kunawe naka ke mfundzi sesikusho konke lokho ungayibhala indzaba yakho phendvule umbuto usisho sizathu sekubhala kwakho indzaba yakho ibe mnanzi indzaba yakho ihehe kodwa indzaba yakho angeke ihehe kahle nasingakanaki lulwimi singemaswati siphaca futhi thina siyaticwabha ngelwimi lethu kungako sitawuthi nasibhala kufune sathi ukuthi kunemehluko kwekuthi umuntu utawuthini asibhale ke ulwimi lethu luhambisane nesihloko labathinzekako latibonele ngemohlo uthite asisebenzise amagama elikhethelo kungako nasibuka esingenisweni sethu sithide tigebengitimbe lokusho ukuthi timbe lana usho ukuthi tigebengi betingatiwa futhi simba semali sichaza imali lenyenti siyatisebenzisa futhi tinomo kungako lapha sitawuthi ungasebenzisa tisho taka tenda ukuthi sithite esingenisweni sethu letisebenzi tisele tibambe wangephasi sathi tikhale temunga lomunye beka ngathi tishaye tacitha solo sisebenzisa tinomo sesekwendile konke lokho asitinake netimpawu tekubhala timpawu tekubhala tethu ngito letawenda ukuthi lofunza indzaba yethu alisebenzisa liphimbo lelikahle uyathi ukuthi nangisebenzisa umbabati ngidawenda njani nangisebenzisa umbuti live litawenda njani kungako sithi bhala lendlela lobhala ngayo ubanake uyintinake letimpawu tekubhala bofelepha nawucala umusho sebenzisa igama lendzawo noma usebenzisa libito ngco sebenzisa bongci bokhefana umbabati lokunye ke lesikunakako ukuthi sibitelo sethu asibe ngiso sesivamile ukuthi ke sithi nasibhala sithi inzotha sithi umfana emagama lathi umbila asikhoni kwabhala kwenda kusilomsebenzi wethu uhliphiteke ngasabonakala ukuthi awusibobhalana kanti sithi umsebenzi wakho awuhlobe umsebenzi wakho awungajengisi ukuthi wena bobhala uhlikihla lokunye lesikunaka ukuthi sebenzisa Swati lesingiso nawubhalako sesikunakile ukuthi ke sengikunakile nje ukuthi sekulula ukuthi ngathi ngiyashaya wakhatheka kukhatheka akusiso siswati likhona ligama lesiswati lithini ujubekile futhi likhona ligama nawufuna ukuthi bengisho ukuthi ngibhizi alisilo siswati kodwa thina silithatha bese siletha la Swatini sengathi liyasebenza bese kugcineni sesithi ngibhizi kanzi ngiphishanekile lisho siswati sithi sebenzisa siswati lesingito asikhumbutane ke mfundzi indzaba yethu ibe engumbiko weliphephandzaba uba ngemaqiniso odwa umbiko wethu kungako sitawubona ukuthi uphenyile sababona abantu bakhuluma laba hambeselana nayo uba nesihloko Uyasho ukuthi ubhalwe ngubani? Uyasho umbiko wethu indzawo la wendeke khona. Singeniso sethu sitawushwamba kanye umbiko sishito sothi ungasho sikwendekeni kuphi nini. Emtimbeni siyatfola ukuthi kwendekene nalabatibonele sibeve batikhulumela bese kugcineni sitawuveta ukuthi kwendekani. Sihamba sifike lapho sifundo sethu sembiko weliphephandzaba. Nginawo ke umsebenzi ekhaya mfundzi wami. Uthi lo msebenzi wami kushiswa likhaya endzaweni yakini. Lishisiwe lelikhaya endzaweni yangakini. Naka lokuthi ushiswe endzaweni yangakini. Uyinsatheli. Ungasho ukuthi mina ngake ngaba yinsatheli ngoba phela sethi ikhulumile lendzaba ukuthi uyangena kulesimo ugcoke leticathulo. Ngithi ke bhala umbiko weliphephandzaba. Siyabonga.
Asibonga kakhulu Phosha, isifundo sakho besimnanzi kakhulu. Ngiyethemba ukuthi bafunzi bakho basijabulele kakhulu isifundo sakho. Ngiyethemba ukuthi sidakubona futhi etfundweni lekulandzelako.
Asethembe kanjalo nolwazi.
Next time sitawuhlabela futhi ngoba ngifile ukuthi bayahlabela bafunzi bakho.
Asethembe kutaba tanginika sifundo lapho khona batawudzinga ukuthi sishukushukume kancane. Cha sidinga ngasitawushukushukuma kushisela ngekhathi.
Okay, I know. Tabe kumnanzi impela. Bafunzi belibanga lelishumi ningayinzawo ngitawubuya kanye naye tishela webiology walolibanga lelishumi ngitawubuya khona manje.
Litiko letempilo kwesicwayisile ngesifo lesivelile kulamalanga i-coronavirus COVID-19 bagcizelela kakhulu ukuhlendeka kwetandla lokumcoka ukuthi itandla digezwe nawugeza tandla ke bashilo ukuthi digeze lokungenani ama-seconds lam-20 ngemanti lagijimako lanesifo. Lokunye ke labasixwayise ngako ukuthi latingalweni lingahlala leligciwane ukuthi ngakuthi letingalo nato utiwashe ungashintshe itandla kuphela for 20 seconds nalamkhathi sinetandla ugeze nakhona litawufa ligciwane kanjalo. Ngiyacela ma-loyal viewers geza intandla nihlale ekhaya nihlale niphephile sitayinqoba i-COVID-19.
Now, from the moment it was announced that there will be no sporting activities due to the ongoing COVID-19, we all felt that. But imagine how much work you can do in your house just using your chair. It could be anything you have in your house. Take a look at this. From my own chair, I'm able to exercise 30 minutes per day, from biceps to triceps to my abs. But what are you waiting for? It is doable, it is possible. I'm able to do all the work. No matter how much time it will take me, I will stay active. Now, if you're a soccer player, an athlete, a gym instructor, anyone who loves exercising, use this time. It is doable in the house, in your own time. Stay safe. Together, we'll win this war.
Imidlalo yonke imisiwe eveni. Hlala ekhaya utivikele kulesifo i-COVID-19. Lokumcoka ukuthi uhlale ekhaya. Sitawudlala imidlalo uhulumende sekazivumela.
Kulesikhathi lapho khona umhlaba ula nemkhuhlane i-coronavirus, uhulumende kwakuleli ucele wona eMaswati ukuthi akahlale ekhaya alandzele timiso nemihambo yenhlangano yemhlaba emhlabeni. Kanike ngabe mbukeli ukuthi ngakala ukuthi uphume uye ekhaya ngoba ke uye emsebentini. Hlala ukufake i-face mask. Kanike ngabe kubita ukuthi ukhwehlelela emkhonweni. Sitawubonana mbukeli mayibuya tona temidlalo ngabe sitawulandzela tona tinqumo ta hulumende. Stay home, stay safe.
So lokukhutsatwa kona ke ukuthi hlale ekhaya uhlanzekile ugeze tandla.
Keep fit, stay home.
Ungayi ngaphandle kuyodlala imidlalo.
Hlala ugcoke i-face mask.
When we talk of screening, basically, this is a preventative measure of finding out if there's any problem that may present as a result. So when you screen, you are trying to find out whether it exists or not, the problem. So in our case, The idea of screening is to ensure that everyone does not present with high temperature. So anyone who's presenting with higher temperature than usual is then picked up. And then from then on, you'll then be tested to make sure that you have the virus or not. That is the main difference.
Eswatini sibambisene kulwa nekwanza kuligciwane le-corona.
Hi, my name is Professor Shabang. I am an actor and a TV presenter. Coronavirus is a deadly virus, an invincible enemy killing people all over the world. We are not exempted, but together we can walk through and overcome as a nation. All we need to do is to follow the health precautions. Stay at home, stop the spread, and save lives.
Welcome back to our viewers. Like I had said before, it's the biology class 4 from 5, and already joining me in the studio is Mr. Eugene Dlamini, who is going to be teaching the biology from 5 class, and also joining us in the studio, is our sign language interpreter Zanele Mota. How are you doing today, Mr. Dlamini?
I'm very well, Nogwazi. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. So what is today's topic about?
Today's topic is about biotechnology and genetic engineering.
All right.
Yes.
Okay, this is going to be a great lesson. I'm obsessed with genetic engineering, which is what is used to clone stem cells and all of that. Am I right?
Yes.
Okay.
Course, yes.
Okay, Form 5s, I hope that you are ready. Just to remind the Form 5s as well, we are live on YouTube and on Facebook. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask us on our WhatsApp number. Mr. Dlamini, I'll let you start with your lesson.
Thank you, Nogwazi. Greetings, viewer, and a good afternoon to you. Today, our lesson is on genetic engineering, and our rationale why it is important for us to learn about genetic engineering is that it is used for producing important hormones. For example, human sex hormones. In one of the previous lessons, we talked about fertility treatments, and it is used also for making drugs. For example, antibiotics and vaccines. All right. Another reason why biotechnology is important for us is that it is used for producing important foods such as bread, yogurt, fruit juices, and alcoholic beverages. Lena will know also at home we do apply some biotechnology in preparing sour porridge. All right. Genetic engineering, on the other hand, produces important products such as human insulin from bacteria. And whilst it has some advantages, genetic engineering also has certain disadvantages, which we will discuss. Our objectives for today's lesson: firstly, to describe biotechnology. What is biotechnology? Second objective, to describe the role and uses of enzymes in biological washing products as well as in the food industry. Another objective is to describe the use of microorganisms to manufacture the enzymes in the food industry. To discuss modern biotechnology with reference to cloning. Nogwazi mentioned cloning, so we'll talk about cloning as well. In genetic engineering, we'll be defining genetic engineering and explaining its use in the production of human insulin using bacteria. And then lastly, we'll be looking at advantages and disadvantages of genetic engineering. Biotechnology can be defined as the use of the living organisms or their components to make products that are useful to humans. And such products include foods, of course, enzymes, hormones, antibiotics, vaccines would be included as well in that list. Firstly, we will look at biological washing powders. And biological washing powders contain enzymes, namely lipases and proteases. Lipases, we will know, work on lipids or fats, and in washing powders, those would address stains from grease or fat, such as butter, mayonnaise, tomato sauce, etc. Proteases work on proteins and would digest stains like blood or egg. The enzymes will break down these stains and produce soluble products that easily dissolve in the water and can then remain in the water and not in the garment that are being cleaned. Moving on to the food industry, and in the food industry, the enzymes that are used include cellulases, pectinases, amylases. And a combination of these enzymes can be used to give a better yield of fruit juice as well as superior quality. And you will know when you make your own juice at home, it's not to the same quality of the juice that we buy in the shops. And it is because of their use of these enzymes in the food industry. There are two types of microorganisms that are used in the food industry, and these two are bacteria and fungi. Bacteria or fungi are put in large sterile vessels that are called fermenters. Next, we look at a sample question from the Keswa biology exam in 2018. And the question on your screen is as follows. Fungi are used to make single cell proteins in large sterile fermentation tanks. Part 1. State two conditions that must be kept constant in the fermentation tank. State two conditions that must be kept constant in the fermentation tank. Part 2. Explain why the fermentation tanks should be kept sterile. Explain why the fermentation tanks should be kept sterile. The learner must be aware here that 2 marks for this question, therefore there are 2 points that the examiner looks for in the answer. Let's talk about fermenters so our learner can be able to answer the questions. The fermenter should be sterile to exclude other microorganisms that can compete for nutrients and also release products that will contaminate the enzymes that are being manufactured. A nutrient-rich medium such as molasses and ammonium salts are added to the fermenter. Molasses for energy, ammonium salts for manufacture of proteins. And in the fermenter, there is a stirrer that keeps the microorganisms in contact with the nutrients. The next diagram that we see on our screen shows us what a fermenter would look like. And we'll look maybe from the bottom left, clockwise. There is a water jacket that is used for controlling the temperature in the fermenter. There is a sensor that detects the conditions including pH, oxygen levels, as well as heat in the fermenter. There is a nutrient inlet where nutrients are added together with the microorganisms. There is an acid or base inlet. Acid would be added to decrease the pH. Base would be added to increase the pH as the need may arise. There is a motor on the top right there, which drives the stirrer so that it mixes the contents of the fermenter. There's an aerator which inputs air or oxygen into the fermenter. And there is an exhaust outlet for removing any waste gases that are being produced in the fermenter. We have here also the steering pedals. When the motor is running, those pedals are moving around and mixing. And then lastly, at the bottom there, we have the product outlet for the substances that were being prepared. There are certain conditions in the fermenter, and the conditions are as follows. The temperature is maintained at 26 degrees Celsius, and the pH is kept between pH 5 and pH 6. Lastly, when the products have been manufactured in sufficient quantities, the enzymes can then be extracted and purified. We should now be in a position to answer the question from the 2018 paper. The first part of the question is the two conditions that must be kept constant in the fermenter. And if you wrote optimum pH and optimum temperature, that will give you 2 marks. Please note, optimum is important because the pH must be where the microorganisms will produce the best yield, and the temperature as well. The second part of the question says, explain why the fermentation tanks should be kept sterile. And the answer to that question, 1 point, to exclude other microorganisms that will compete for food. A second point, to prevent production of undesirable products. Those are the answers to our question on fermentation tanks. Next, we look at the manufacture of yogurt, and here bacteria are added to pasteurized milk at a temperature of 40 degrees Celsius, and the bacteria respire without using oxygen, respire anaerobically, and break down lactose, sugar, to lactic acid. The lactic acid lowers the pH of the milk because it is acidic, obviously, and causes the milk to coagulate and form curds. And when the fermentation is finished, then the yogurt is stirred and then cooled down to a temperature of 5 degrees Celsius. Biotechnology is also used in making bread, and during bread making, yeast is mixed with water and sugar, and the enzymes will convert sugar to ethanol and carbon dioxide. Now, the carbon dioxide is important because it makes the dough to rise, which gives the bread a light texture and makes it soft. The high temperature will kill the yeast and also evaporate the ethanol. So there is no ethanol remaining in the bread. Yeast is also used in brewing, and during brewing, yeast is added to sugar and kept in warm conditions, and the yeast respires anaerobically again, converting ethanol to carbon dioxide. And with alcoholic beverages, the ethanol is what is responsible for making the beverage to be alcoholic, and the carbon dioxide makes it to fizz, giving it a sharp taste. Moving on to cloning. Modern biotechnology can be used in cloning of organisms. And what is cloning? Cloning is the process of producing an identical copy of an organism. This results in the production of populations of organisms that are genetically identical. To understand the process, during cloning, an ovum is selected from a female organism and the nucleus is removed. And then a nucleus is removed from a cell of the organism that is to be reproduced and injected into the empty ovum. Then the ovum is placed in the uterus of a female organism, the surrogate, where it will grow. To just further illustrate, we will use a diagram showing the cloning of Dolly the sheep. Now, in this process, an egg cell was extracted from a Scottish blackface sheep and enucleated, meaning the nucleus removed, as we have said already. Then a cell is extracted as well from a Finn Dorset sheep, the sheep that is being cloned, and in this case the cells are combined using electricity to make a zygote. And the zygote, you will be aware, only contains genetic information from the Finn Dorset. So it will produce offspring that are genetically identical to the Finn Dorset. Then that zygote is placed in a surrogate L, and the offspring Dolly, which is identical, is produced. So genetic engineering, to just finish with that, is changing the genetic material of an organism by removing, changing, or inserting individual genes, where a gene can be removed to stop its effect or changed to modify its effect. A gene of interest can be taken from the DNA of one species and inserted into the DNA of another species to produce the desired protein, and that is how insulin is manufactured. And an example of a question on genetic engineering we have here from 2018 as well, outline how genetic engineering is used to produce insulin on a large scale. Nogwazi, are we okay?
Just a couple of minutes and then we have to close off the show, and unfortunately we've run out of time.
Okay. 2 uses of genetic engineering: selective breeding and recombinant DNA technology. We'll try and be quick on this one. And in producing human insulin, bacteria is used that has a section of DNA called a plasmid, and that DNA is cut open using a restriction enzyme, and the human insulin is then inserted into the plasmid so that the bacterium that is formed is transgenic, and that bacteria is duplicated in the fermenter and is able to produce the human insulin. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lamini. And like I just said, we have run out of time. I'm sorry about that. I hope that we'll continue in the next session, though.
Yes, of course.
All right. Thank you very much. Viewers, like I had just said, we have run out of time. Unfortunately, I have to say goodbye to you on my own. My colleague is not here with me. We will see you guys tomorrow. Do not forget, we're live from 2 p.m. until 5 p.m. on YouTube and on Facebook. And if you have any questions, please ask on our WhatsApp number. So from me and the team, of course, it's goodbye and see you tomorrow. Bye.